Okay. Öncelikle herkese merhabalar. Ee, Seminerimize hoş geldiniz. Biz Türkiye temsilcisi olduğumuz World Scientific ile sayısal grafik olarak bu toplantıyı düzenledik. Bu arada konuşmacımız Doktor Yan bu konuda çok deneyimli akademik yayıncılık konusunda. Kendisi Imperial College'da İngiltere'de uzun yıllar çalıştı. Şu anda ise Singapore World Scientific merkezindedir. Kendisi bilgisayar mühendisi, aynı zamanda çevre bilimleriyle beraber bu işi götürüyor. Bilgisayar mimarisinde çok çalışmışlığı var. Kendisinin akademik yayıncılık konusunda da bu özellikleri yanı sıra birikmiş iyi bir deneyimi, bir tecrübesi var. Aynı zamanda bu değişen hızlı bilimsel gelişmeler döneminde de bize kendi öngörülerini paylaşacak. Lütfen bu toplantıyı verimli kılalım. Tekrar hepiniz katıldığınız için teşekkürler. Umarım keyifli ve yararlı bir toplantı olacaktır. Tekrar hoş geldiniz. Yes, Dr. Young, welcome. It's your time. It's your turn, please.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Okay, I am editor in World Scientific. So I look after journal. So and also I do some book as well. So today I will share with you, in particularly some of the issues of writing article and submitting your article for publication. Okay, give me a minute. Okay, so right, first thing first. Okay, we are what we call STM publisher, meaning that we specialize in science, technology, and medicine. And we every year we publish around about 600-700 books. And at the moment, I have about 140 journals that are basically we are managing and publish. And so our company actually started nearly 40 years ago. So up to now, we have a collection of like maybe 10,000 books that we have published all over the year, and many in the what we call science, technology, and medicine area. That's why we are basically started off as a STM publisher. But some years ago, we also diversified into finance and economics. So we have now another sessions of our editorial department that are basically publishing books in economics and finance, and also including some of the social science topics. Okay, we actually it's one of the key publisher for Nobel laureate, and then we have cover like Nobel laureate for quite some years already, and we got quite a good collection of the books and also article that published by those scientists. So we is a Singapore-based company. We have our own building, but apart from our own Singapore headquarters, we do have offices around the world, mainly in the sort of key important city like Munich in US, in New Jersey, in London, and then we have offices in China as well, and they are in Shanghai and Beijing, and including Hong Kong as well. Taiwan, we also have an office. So Munich, we also have actually colleagues stationed there. So those as our so-called branches around the world. And so if you like to get in touch with us other than come straight to the headquarters in Singapore, I mean, London probably is the nearest to you as far as I can tell. And perhaps Munich are places that probably you could get in touch with them. Okay, we publish, as I say, many in science, technology, medicine, and now social sciences. In here that you can see, the latest book that we have is this New Architecture of Science. It's actually published by the Nobel Prize winner of physics in 2010. COSAC at the moment is actually working in Singapore, although you also host a joint appointment with University of Manchester. And this is an interesting book that he talk about how he actually built the Garfield building in Manchester, and he taking a very different approach of, instead of going straight to the architect, he go around to ask the user of the building what kind of building, what kind of lab would they like. So it's a bit of bottom-up approach and quite interesting approach. And we published this about maybe in July, and we're supposed to have a book launch in London and Manchester, but because of the COVID-19, the plan have been put off. So maybe sometime next year, we may have a chance to have a book launch on this particular book. Okay, there are other subjects that within the so-called STM, they are mathematics, they are physics, and our chairman is a physicist, so I think that's where we start from, mainly on maths and physics, and later on diversify into medicine, engineering, and computer science. Okay, we have author all over the world, and we have Nobel laureates, we have scientists, professor in almost almost every country that we have somebody there that have actually published book with us. So those are some of the key titles that we published over the year by some of the very famous author. A lot of them are Nobel Prize winner or field medalists for mathematics. Okay, now I will focus on journal, and then will lead us into writing an article and submitting to journal for publication. What are the things that we look for? Okay, this cartoon is actually quite interesting to sum up different people at different state of their life or career. When they're thinking of publication, what does it mean to us? So in here, you got maybe PhD students that actually consider publishing a paper, and those are actually to a certain extent driven by the topic is working on. And you also have graduate students who are working on their project. So topics are whatever they have been given or they have decided will be their topics of their thesis. And so at different stage of the career, you will see that they have different intention and they have different focus. For student, right, I think important is to get somewhere that they can publish some of the article. So their intention is mainly to look for the right type of article and what type of journal for their article. So when it comes to the third person, is actually young professors, and for those, they are at the bottom of their career ladder. So for those, they are looking for a journal that will have impact factor, because those are something that they need to basically put on their CV and so on. So journal with impact factor are some of the important requirement, or if you like, the kind of objective they have in publishing article. When you are having tenure, then the what we call number of article where the article was published, it become less important. So you might publish in journal that you are asked to help to submit paper and so on. So impact factor is not a main thing. And when you are getting old, like almost retire, so those impact factor doesn't mean anything to you then. So you may be just like picking interesting topics to publish in whatever journal that you ask to support or help. So what do you do when you are in the process of thinking of submitting an article? You select a so-called right journal. What does right journal mean to you? The thing that I want to share with you is that first thing, the most important one is to check the scope. When editing journal, we often come across many authors that have submitted their paper in a long journal. That is a key important. You don't submit it because you have high impact factor or because you like the journal. If your article do not fit into the aim and scope, I think the only fate you have is end up in the dustbin, because they straight away will tell you, oh, sorry, you submit to a wrong journal. Please consider to send your paper to somewhere else. So a lot of effort are wasted. So important key thing when you're selecting journal, first thing to look at, go to the website, check their aim and scope. Is that fit within the scope of the topics that you are trying to write? Okay, then you come to the third one, which is the impact factor. As I told you just now in the cartoon, at different state of your career path, you have different expectation of impact factor. When you're a student, you are looking for somehow journal with impact factor that probably will admit your paper or consider your paper. Don't just aim for those very high ones, because they don't even want to look at your paper. So important to look at the quality of your article, and then to basically somehow read some of the article in that journal and say, oh, would my standard roughly within it? That would be probably be a wiser thing to do than anyhow picking any journal with impact factor as a main criterion. Okay, number 4, more and more become issue for author and publisher. And we have started off from a paper printed version journal to now e-copy and so on. So in fact, nowadays, the challenge for publisher is how fast can I turn around a paper from submission to publication. And if you read in the web and you go and search for IEEE assess, IEEE is a very well-known organization, and IEEE assess is actually launched, I think, 2-3 years ago, and itself already have impact factor. And if you look at the unique thing about IEEE assess is that it promised to turn around an article from submit to publication within 6 weeks. That is quite a challenging. But if you look at their editorial board, all their board members are FIEEE, and obviously they have all the experts behind to cover all subjects that within the IEEE domain. So there are many others who cannot follow that one. They will probably like from submit to publication within something like 3 to 6 months. So that's about the kind of expectation. But as we are moving towards more and more electronics based, authors have expected to turn around faster. So this is one of the challenges that we as publishers have to face, is that we have to constantly trying to fine tune our production line to see how fast we can turn it around. And then for some that we've actually created a fast track. So what is meant by fast track is that now later on we'll talk about the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 6, which is the so-called article charge. Okay, nowadays, as far as we are concerned, the 140 journal that we have are operating mainly, I say mainly, not all, in the hybrid domain, meaning that it is subscription-based, that reader have to pay to access the content. However, we also not rejecting author who like to pay to publish, and that's called open access. So that is come into being because of some development. UK have actually have a ruling that all grant holder from UK government agency, their output, research output, meaning the article, had to be published in the open domain. That means open access. And then obviously, if author pay for it, that means publisher will open up that paper for free access, free download, and so on. So the price at the moment is ranging for $2,000 per article to $2,500. And the advantage of publish under open access is that usually it will attract better citation because you do not need to be the subscriber to read them. So your paper are probably more widely available. And then you tend to attract more people reading your article. So the chances of putting your article inside the references and become cited is actually higher than those that are not open access. And because of those two reasons, meaning that government require you to publish in open domain, plus you can actually increase your citation. There are people who want to publish in open access. But let me stress this thing is that as far as we are concerned, in terms of review and the standard of the article will not be compromised because either you are paid to publish or you are basically accessed by subscription. There's no different at all. The only difference is that the visibility, the accessibility will be different for open domain, that there is no what we call lock or control access, that everybody can just Google it and then they can access to the article. So as far as we are concerned, we are operate in a hybrid mode, meaning that we accept open access even published within the so-called subscription-based journal. And most of our journal are this way. Obviously, we also have a pure open access journal, but those are, I think, less than 10 among our 140. Okay, some of the special journal that have actually got quite good citation. This cover quite a spectrum of different topics. And it's number 4 one I have to mention about it. This is mathematical logic. Its citation on number itself is not very high. It's about 1 point something, but it's the top mathematical logic journal in the world. I've top is number 1. And it is actually now the 3 editor-in-chief, they are all mathematicians. And there are some issue with this is that I have editorial board meeting with them about a couple of years ago. And I've been trying to ask them to increase number of issues from 2 to maybe 3 or 4. And it take me 2 hours. They only agree to increase 1 issue. The reason is that they say the paper had to be scrutinized very, very carefully. So their review time are longer than anybody else. However, they actually publish top-notch quality paper in mathematical logic. So different journals have different characteristics. Okay, I like to share with you, okay, International Journal of Neuron System is the one at the moment inside our company have the higher impact factor, that's 5.6. And it also operate on the hybrid mode, but we also accept author who want to pay 2,500 to publish, so long as their paper are accepted. And also there are additional paid charges. The page length or limit for this particular journal is American A4 double column, not more than 16 pages. Extra pages will be charged US dollar $250 per page. So this is the one that actually have what we call page charges on top of the open access charges. But it's one of our top journal as far as our company is concerned. Okay, now we go to the key thing I want to talk about today, or I want to share with you today. The slide before this one is about company. Now I want to share with you more like personal experience, how I as an editor, how I write, how I edit, and some of them might find this useful. So this is something that I will go through a bit slowly. So any question you can ask me. Okay, how to prepare a manuscript? I think before you start looking for the right journal for you, you should go to that particular journal and then look at some of the article as whether it is something you are expected in terms of quality, in terms of aim and scope, and in terms of the type of paper, and so on. Now, I mentioned the type of paper. I think if you can see my cursor, I will go straight into article type. Okay, in journal, we have usually 3 different article type. The first one is a typical 20 pages A4 research article. So those are quite standard that you're all familiar with. And on top of that, we also publish 2 other type. One of them is review paper, usually running maybe longer than 20 pages A4. And some of them could be quite long, double the size. But review paper usually attract higher citation, because if you are working on your research article or your PhD, you probably know what chapter 2 is, which is the literature survey. And in literature survey, normally you will find a lot of review article, because instead of reading so many paper, I read that review paper, and sometimes it will provide me as pointer to what are the key paper I should read in this particular field. So research paper and review paper, they are the common sort of article type you can find, but I think you will find more research article than review article. They are quite difficult to get expert to write review article, because they take a long time to write it. And usually people who wrote it, they must be an expert of some kind in their own domain. Otherwise, people will probably don't pay much attention. Okay, now I come to a third type of article. It's called a technical note. Usually 8 to 10 pages A4. So that difference is that you got something to comment on. It doesn't require you to put in massive amount of research data to justify your claim. It's something that you can actually release, publish pretty quickly. So if you have something like, you have read somebody's article and you have a different view, you object to it, or you have certain to basically challenge some of the result, you can actually publish in a short 8 to 10 pages, and they are called technical note. So those are the 3 basic type of the so-called article you find in journal. And obviously they are also like 1-2 pages preface, that sort of thing, but this is usually contributed by guest editor. It's not something that you should contemplate unless you are asked to edit a special issue. Okay, just quickly move on to some of the other points that you have to look at is that I don't think those are things that I want to spend too much time on. Is that some of the requirement is that when you are asked to prepare your article in according to certain format, you better read them carefully, because typically there are two type of paper requirement. One of them is called camera ready copy. We call them CRC. So this is very much like the conference paper you are asked to prepare, that you have to conform with certain format, layout, and so on. The others are called reformat, which most of our journal are reformat in the sense that you can just send you a manuscript in Microsoft Word or LaTeX. We will do the layout for you. So first, before we do that, we will have do some copy editing and so on. So go to the so-called guideline for author, read them carefully, the requirement, and also certain journal have certain requirement on, for example, images that you have to provide have to have certain quality and so on. I think I have come across some to like to use, for example, screenshot all this. I think for most of the publication, those are not accepted because the resolution are not very good. And as a publisher, we are very careful with the quality of images, because when we publish it, it becomes our responsibility, and we get all the blame if the images are not sharp enough for people to follow. I think mainly those are the key things I want to talk about. So in here, there are so long review, as I told you, it's a review, and short communication letter. That's a technical note I'm talking about. Okay, this is the most important thing I want to talk about today, is getting down to writing. The title is extremely important. I think most of the time people look at the title first before they look at the abstract. And the point is that if you are good, you already can embed what you want to write inside that one or two line title. So it's a skill to actually can write a title well. So what should be inside there? I'll talk about it later. Title have to be concise in some respect, but I think later on I'll talk about all article, in fact, should have three key things inside there. So if your so-called title can actually analyze to catch people's attention on one or two of the key points of your article, and that will be a fantastic article title. And so careful about your title. Look at how people use it, how people choose the title. You can consider that titles is, if you like, combination of a lot of your so-called keyword, but to form in a nice sentence. This is usually the first thing you write, and also it's the last thing you go and clean it up. I remember I started off my thesis with abstract, and then I also end my thesis at abstract that I keep going back to rewrite. The reason is very simple. Abstract inside there already or should include and contain the three key things about your article. And if you could actually nicely write down, put down the three key things within these 250 words, about half a page A4, is a fantastic abstract. So what should be in there? Today I'm going to share with you, that's my experience as an editor, as an author as well, that in the abstract, you should be able to ask yourself three questions. The questions that we want to cover are originality. So what's mean by originality? If you look at dictionary, originality means nobody else on earth have ever done this before. How could that be? Yeah, it's possible. So the point is that to qualify to be published in our journal or most of the journal in the world, the article must be original in the sense that no one else had ever done it before. And this is very, very tall order. Later on, I will explain to you how people interpreted this originality. The second thing that you want to ask yourself is that you propose something that you think is original, and you have to try to prove it. And the evidence that you provide to justify your claim is actually inside the thing called ability to test idea. So if you say, oh, I have a way to make a human being actually airlift themselves above the floor. So this is the originality. And you have a mechanism that can do that. So how could it prove that? Now, in scientific paper, there are two ways you can do that. You can either do it what we call qualitatively, in the sense that to show people the mechanism whereby you can deliver that promise, or you do a quantitative one such that you have enough evidence to show that you can repeat this as many times as you want, you still can get it. I think clinical trial is in the what we call quantitative area now that we are all talking about vaccine. So if Pfizer want to prove that their vaccine can achieve the aim of able to prevent you from catching COVID-19, you have to produce enough data to support that. Or you try the old man, you try the young kid, and you try the people with chronic disease, and they all come out mostly okay. And at what percent? That is what ability to test idea have to deliver. So in fact, the key thing for a researcher, the ability to test idea is a thing that you probably spend more than 2-3 years working on it. It's a heartbeat. It's the one that you chew up data to justify your so-called originality claim. So this part is actually very important. And in fact, this is something that you must able to highlight it inside your 250 word abstract. The third thing is called contribution to knowledge. That is actually, to a certain extent, you can find them in most of the conclusion. So usually don't take very long sentences. Just sometimes usually one paragraph you can cover that. The one that you actually spend a lot more word on is probably the second one, the ability to test idea. Why is your methodology, your method unique? And how could you able to provide evidence to justify your so-called originality claim? So to write an abstract, to read the abstract, you will have to focus on these three things. So first of all, when reading the abstract, you ask yourself a question. For this particular paper, what is the originality? Now, if you cannot answer that question, either you don't know how to read or the guy don't know how to write. Second thing is that ability to test idea. Oh, what algorithm he used, what method he used, what is the methodology, and where's the evidence? So it's now will go into things like statistics, you're going to things like mathematics or whatever, but it's all inside ability to test idea. Contribution to knowledge is basically say, hey guy, I've done this. You can see that I can manage to deliver what I promised, and that is a result, and you show that no one had done before. That's what probably like one sentence. And inside the abstract, you must have these three things. And in fact, the way I usually read article is I'm looking for answer of these three key points. If I don't find them, I think there are problems with the article. Either author don't know how to write it, or the article does not contain all these three things. You must have all these three things before we are accepted them. Okay. Originality state the research problem clearly to explain why is it interesting and important. And what that means is that originality means looking for a gap you have to tell people like why there is the gap and why no one else before you have never found that gap. And the gap is a research topics. In here, don't reference to anything the best. Is first to basically able to underline the key uniqueness of your what we call proposition. And the reason why I told you that originality in the abstract is something that you write initially, also you write lastly that before you close your thesis, because when you start putting evidence together, you begin to tell that some of the thing is not as straightforward as you thought. Right. This is by no means universally agreeable. This is the way I look at it. Okay, you might disagree with my charge, but that's the way I look at it. In terms of originality, usually they fall into these 4 columns. So how do I divide this? I will divide them into 2 axes. One is about problem. The other one is about the mean of solving the problem, meaning the solution. This is the one that normally you find in most conference papers. They are not as original as such, but they provide certain insight into, for instance, using a method people propose and try to replicate it and to see whether the result that published before was actually feasible. And you don't get a lot of reward in terms of originality because someone else have actually touched on this problem before, but may not present the way you have or try on the application domain you have tried. So this one is one of the lowest grade in terms of these 4 column, but it's all where we start from. Most of the conference paper go into this column. Okay, this one is a new solution to an old problem. There are a lot of this happening. I think a lot of article in management, in technology, they come under this category. I mean, for instance, very simple. Mobile phone. Mobile phone is an old problem, right? I remember those mobile phone, very huge one. That was before the so-called Apple phone come along. Then Apple turned, in fact, music player, and they give them connectivity and then turn it into iPhone. So this is basically a new solution to a telephone problem, but it take off, become a disruptive technology. The reason is that everybody like to have a good quality music player, and they also need to be carry a phone in their other pocket to be connected. And we will keep asking questions those days and say, why don't them combine these 2 together? And Apple have done that. And it become a disruptive technology. And there are so many examples as such. You can find things like 3D printing, which are, in fact, CAD-CAM during my undergraduate day. And then suddenly this nanomaterial come into being that you can actually able to manipulate a material down to 10 to the -9. And the old CAD-CAM idea still work. It's just like instead of you cutting a block of a spanner out from a block of metal, you now can grow them inside out using a nano material, and so long that you can prove that the spanner that you produce is as tough, as good as the steel spanner, then you have a disruptive technology. And a lot of paper in this domain are in technology and in business management, that kind of stuff. You see a lot of those of this idea. I mean, if you look at it this way, is that how to put it, Google, all those ideas. I mean, getting a taxi is no big deal, ma. You can telephone call to get a taxi and so on. But now it become so easy that you can use a handphone to actually call a taxi. So is it the old problem? It is the old problem of getting a taxi. But a new technology has come in to make things so simple that you don't need to rely on middlemen. You just get up your phone, then the taxi will come in front of you in 5 minutes. And that actually cut out a lot of middlemen. And to a certain extent, create a lot of new industry. So a lot of papers are written in this area. So this one, it is looking for something quite challenging, but it is something that actually, how to put it, not originally in what we call the problem domain or in the methodology. This one is a new problem and the new methodology. And you find a lot of these papers are in maths and physics, more on the pure science, which are both new as a solution, also new as a problem. So a lot of pure science journal are in this category. So when you position yourself in writing an article, you have to see, where do I fit in? Should I be in here, here, here, or there? But I think most of us start from here. I say that before just now in saying that in an abstract, you'll find 3 key points there: that originality, the ability to test idea, and there's a contribution to knowledge. I say that this is the first thing I write or you write before we start thinking about the article or your thesis. But if you look at them carefully, in fact, these 3 points will eventually expand into a skeleton of the entire article or your entire thesis. Because inside of originality, you can break them down into 2 sub-problems. The first one is, what is the problem? How we define it. And that sometimes, often, it becomes your introduction of your thesis, of your article that you are planning to write. Later on, I will show you how we can expand from a 3 key point to a 7-point structure of your thesis or your article. So your introduction comes from your originality, and you have to also define your problem. So we come to the second point, and second point is something that usually is the one that you spend most effort on, your methodology, your model, and so on. So in here, you have to work out how you can gather the information or evidence to justify your originality. So in here, there are some planning involved, that how you develop a concept and how you find what we call evidence resources to basically able to justify your claim. So I will talk about more detail later on, but for the second point, you will be focused on your model, your hypothesis. So in terms of your thesis, this is your chapter 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you were to look at it in more detail, the ability to test idea, in fact, you can reorganize them or decompose them into a four more smaller or 5 more point. Is first of all is how you construct a concept. And I always look at it this way, is that in the originality part, I talk about what's the problem, how you define them. In fact, how you define them, right? I normally present them this way, is that what's the problem? I always present them as a goal. And then how we define them, I usually decompose goal into a list of objective. What do I mean? Okay, I will use a chess as an example. If I playing chess, right, the goal is checkmate, right? Everybody know that checkmate is the end of the game. So how do you decompose them or define them? Well, I will define checkmate into you got no move to make. So we look at a chess pieces, let's say king or queen is your target. You're looking at the number of legal moves that particular pieces have and blocked up all the legal move plus one more extra move to checkmate. So if you got 3 legal move, then you will define your checkmate into, I have to have 4 objectives, 3 to block the legal move and 1 to checkmate. So your goal becomes 4 objectives. Now, once you have done that, you can come to say, how could you able to develop a formation of checkmate? So in here, constructive a strategy that is, if you were to label your 4 objectives as 1, 2, 3, 4, no, not 1, 2, 3, but there's no order yet, at 4 different circles, how you order them, how you connect them, and become a different plan. So different way of connecting them become a different plan. So how many way and which one should be the best one is something that you think about in the constructive or strategy. Do you understand? For example, I just now talking about to checkmate, you need 3 move to block the legal move and 1 to checkmate. So which legal move blocking one you should basically execute first as number 1 or as the last one? And this is something that you play about. I numbering the 4 circle, a different combination of 1, 2, 3, 4, and how you're going to connect them. Obviously, there's one constraint that the checkmate have to be the last one. So probably you end up with numbering 3 different 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3 in the different way. And we'll see how many combinations are there that will form a different plan. And when you come to the next point, organization or information, every plan, there's a cost. You have to work out as how many moves, how many steps you have to make to able to realize that particular objective. And each of them, you must give it a cost function. And when you add them all together, obviously the goal is still checkmate with the shorter path. So the one that with the shorter move will probably end up with the best idea plan. But you have to say, oh, what happens if this plan don't work? What's your standby plan? So you work out cost in terms of number of move in here to work out which one will be the best one, which one will be the standby plan. And then the third, allocation of resources, you look at the chessboard and decide, well, which one should I pick up as an operational plan and go for it. And the opponent will also react to your move and start moving around. Then you may find that your operational plan become impossible and you rework and so on. So those are the things that you may go round and round here. After you have decided and choose the so-called best plan, you have to so-called monitor it by perhaps constructing a table of content, look at it, and then drop something, get some comment from other people. For example, if you're a student, you ask your supervisor to look at it, to comment on it. Is it a right way? Is it is there a better way of able to deliver this so-called originality with the result that I've given, and so on. So you can do the so-called draft at this point. And the last one probably is that when you have gone through all this, you decided to submit, and then you have received certain comment after revision and so on. Those are the things that probably you have to look into it and change accordingly before you submit your revised version. So if you look at it, ability to test idea is the most time consuming one, because you're going through the problem solving step of from concept to plan, and then to try out your so-called draft, getting some feedback and so on. So this is the part that you probably have to spend more time on it. So this is just quickly talking about how to present result. Results should be based on the summary form. So graph, table will be good to have. Anything can be presented using images will be good, because nowadays, frankly speaking, it's not difficult to basically presenting in graphical form, and there are a lot of tools around to help you with that. And then as a publisher, I think we prefer you to presenting in table, on figure or graph and so on, because that to a certain extent also make your paper more readable. Okay, as I say that this 3 point can develop into eventually the whole article. So your contribution to knowledge, you are most likely to map it into your so-called conclusion. So in here, you analyze your result, then you basically highlighted what you have done, what you haven't done, what you have achieved, what you cannot achieve, and so on. And then to share that with, if you like, your peer or so on. So in the form of your contribution to knowledge, by summing up your ability to test idea, and then map that with the claim that you have in originality, and basically to do a reflection of what been done, what have yet to be done, and what cannot be done, and so on. In here, there are certain things you have to avoid. Don't tell people that you got further work to do and so on. If you have further work to do, you should go back to your lab and don't submit the paper until you've done that further work. So don't avoid those things that in your conclusion. Be more point blank and say, what have you achieved and what have you haven't achieved. Okay, those are just some key things to remember. Don't present incomplete data. I'm still waiting for more test result or like field trial result and so on. Those things, then you wait until you have everything before you publish. And I think a lot of time that we have problem with is the so-called evidence provided. They are usually incomplete, or in fact, the data is not being scrutinized properly, that it could not stand the so-called reliability test. So in some respect, I want to sum up in the thing is that in an abstract that you are going to write, remember, ask these 3 questions. And frankly speaking, these are something that, in fact, I was surprised to be told that, in fact, that's how people tell story. And in one occasion, I was listening to BBC, then I discovered that they have a program called Forum, and that title of the forum is called How to Tell a Story. And I discovered that a playwright from BBC, his name is John Yoke. He actually written a book about how to write story. And in here, I was surprised to hear him saying that he also used a 3-part template. And the 3-part template is very similar to the 3 points that I'm asking for. First, what's the problem? How we define a problem. Then second point, ability to test how you solve the problem, how you solve the problem. And the third point, oh, I've solved the problem, and everything go back to normal again. So in some respect, you think about that, it is a template, and ask yourself, all the story that you have been told, come across, in fact, all mostly come from these three template, right? Come from these three-part template. Am I right? You use some fairy tale story, Cinderella, yes, Sleeping Beauty, and something happened, okay? And the prince have to go to find some weapon to kill the dragon. So this is so-called ability to test idea. So at the end, he killed the dragon and the world becomes stable again. So happy ending, he married the princess. So this is all three part. Most story form into three part. So to how we tell our research story, when we have research story to tell in a form of article, we also form them into three part. The three part are originality, ability to test idea, and contribution to knowledge. Remember these three things. Oh, so I quickly just sum up what I'm talking about. Almost all story conform into a three-part template. And this is the word that I actually abstract out from John York's book. We survive in many ways. Storytelling is about communicating with others so that to create a bond with them to share a reality. You then act within it in order to, well, I have to move away this. Okay. In order to confront with the opposite, we bring home the truth, meaning that something happened, the world become unstable, so we go away, we find the solution, find the weapon to kill the dragon or whatever, then you come back, then you solve the problem, and the world become order again. So this is normally how story go. So as far as we are concerned, writing an article is that, oh, I found a problem. So this problem disturbed me as I probably could do something to improve the solution. So you have a hypothesis or you have some method, you go away, you do some experiment, you collected some data, and you show it to confirm that your idea worked. So we have enlightened our understanding of that particular problem. So that is your contribution to knowledge. So all this nicely form into a three part, and that three part must be inside your abstract. If you don't have this three part, your abstract are not well written, not complete. So once you have get your abstract done, you can always expand them into your full skeleton of your article. Okay, before I end, there are certain things that over the year, we have published quite a number of books to show people or teach people how to write. I think the best one is the last one, science writing. And in fact, later on you can ask my colleague Yi Hong whether this is true. I think this is the one that we actually sell a lot of copy. They was published in 2010, and now there's a new edition just came out. And very well written. And it's one of the books that I strongly recommend. And if you want to learn how to write, I think the science research writing is actually a very good book. And and I would welcome you to look at it. Okay, I think that's about the end. So I will take some questions. Sadat, if you want to help me, you see whether
yes.
they are.
Dr. Yang, I see the two questions which come from one person, Mr. Jem, from Sabancı University. If you take a look at the chat, please reply them.
I can't read the thing, so would you mind read to me so I can answer it now?
Really?
Because I can only see my PowerPoint. I can't see anything else.
Can I read in English or?
Yeah. No. You better read in English because I don't understand Turkish. I will answer in English as well. So please read to me.
Yes, the Jem, Mr. Jem, he's from the Sabancı University. One question, researchers may also choose to submit their articles to monthly journals instead of journals are published quarterly or more. One question.
Can you repeat again? What's the question actually?
Like this, researchers may choose also to submit their articles to monthly journals instead of journals that are published quarterly. You see the speed of the public speed about the speed.
Yeah. Okay. I think this particular question is actually a very good one because nowadays publishers are competing with speed. We want to turn around faster. So obviously, some journal promise to turn around faster. I think one particular trend is that open access journal publisher have claimed to actually put them on fast track to get it them published faster. Once they accepted, they were trying to turn it around. As far as we are concerned, is that we have a time frame of about 30 working days, which is about 6 working weeks from acceptance. I'm not talking about from submission, from acceptance, meaning that editor-in-chief say that, go ahead, I accepted this paper. Till we see them online, I think I need 6 working weeks. And this is, frankly speaking, not fast enough. If I compare with the IEEE access, they promise to do that from submission to publication in 6 weeks, which I cannot compete. So if the person who asked this question are concerned about that, then check is there a better platform for them to submit to get published faster. One of the things that you can check for is that some of the open access journal or some of the journal, they promise a fast track if you submit by open access.
Yes.
So what's
Okay, I'm reading the second question. This is the last question for this session. In my opinion, he says, when writing an article, the most difficult process is the literature review. How can be sure that we have browsed all previous publications related to our article? That is a nice question.
It's a very good question. I give him one tips.
Can I read again?
Yes,
it's about the literature review.
Yes.
Okay. When I do the literature review, and can I miss some articles or resources?
Correct. So, so the way to solve this problem is to get the review article that cover that particular topic from the expert of the field, because he would have known the thing inside out, and he will tell you once upon a time somebody proposed this, and over this year that's what had happened.
Yes.
So if you follow that reviews article, you save yourself a lot of time reading tons of paper, and you don't know which one are the most important one. So this is the reason why in journal publication, the reviews article actually attract many citations, because most of the people, when they do research survey, they will cite review paper, because this is the most convenient way of basically getting the right type of article. Just from one article, you know, oh, you can read X, X talk about this, you can read Y talk about that. So rather than you go and Google search the entire word, then you say, oh, should I do X, Y, Z or ABC? And these are words from the expert of the field. So go to find the key review paper, read them, and that will save you a lot of time. You will just go to the right paper straight away.
Okay, I think it's mostly over, Dr. Yang. Thank you very much. It's very fruitful speech. And also, one or two questions via WhatsApp I received. Can we share your speech, your recording, your video? Can we share it with the people later?
I'm okay if you want to share the recording, but not my PowerPoint, because I don't want people go and change my PowerPoint. But the recording you can share them, no problem.
Okay. Okay. Again, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's very fruitful, and then happy weekend. Thank you.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to all of you, and keep yourself safe. Yeah.
Okay.
Happy New Year soon.
Okay. Evet, teşekkür. Bu arada herkese iyi yıllar diliyorum. Çok teşekkürler katıldığınız için. Çok mutlu olduk. Umarım bu tür ilişki devam ettiririz. Herhangi bir soru, öneri olduğunuzda ben e-mail adresimi gönderdim sayısal grafik olarak. Bizimle irtibata geçebilirsiniz. Tekrar herkese katıldığı için çok teşekkürler. Okay. Thank you all.
Yeah.